Hey guys, welcome back. Sports with Mono and Mono. It's July 8th, 2019. Here with my partner Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody had a nice July 4th. What do
Yep.
we got on the plate there, Mr. Monahan?
Well, obviously, I think for our soccer fans, it's worth noting the Women's World Cup in the United States took it again,
Right.
second consecutive one.
It was exciting, and as Americans, we were all rooting for them, and it was nice that they won it all. They beat the Netherlands. I think it was 2-0,
2-0.
and they had a great tournament.
They did, actually. They seemed to just be over the top loaded compared to these other countries, which, you know, they've dominated, not like the men have dominated, in soccer, but
Not the U.S. men, obviously.
that's
you're
what I'm
referring
talking
to.
about. Yeah.
But the world men, yes.
Right.
But they had a great tournament. Everybody from Alex Morgan, they scored 13 goals in that first game. And I don't think they trailed or I saw some crazy stat like that. They had a couple tense moments, but all soccer games typically have these tense moments.
I think the final was their toughest match. I mean, it was 0-0 through 70 minutes, and then penalty kick they scored, and
And Rapinoe scored on a kick, and the other girl, I think it was Rose, like Lapella, something like that.
yeah, I don't know what her
And
name
that,
is.
obviously gave the cushion that they needed, and it was a foregone conclusion they were going to bring home the title. So,
And they did.
and I think is that their fourth or something like that too,
It's their fourth overall, second consecutive.
which is very impressive.
So now the big movement is, and I think it's right. I mean, the whole equal pay thing, that became a big prominent thing, compared to what the men get.
Sure, but if they can fill a stadium for 70,000 hooligans, by all means, like on the men's side, like it's all about the economics, and I get where they're coming from, but the fact is, it's people in the stands, and it's the promotion and TV, and that's where all the money comes from.
You
and
know where
I don't
all
know
the,
if
you know
it's
where all
that
the money's
popular.
come from? Merchandising. They've sold
Sure.
more women's U.S. soccer jerseys than the men have in 20 years. mean,
I
it's
can
kinda
believe
crazy.
that, and that's also anher revenue source. So.
And I don't want to get into the politics of it, but they do make a fraction of what the men get. And this is their second World Cup title in 4 years. That's pretty impressive. I don't have any problem with them at least doubling their salaries
Well,
or
sure.
whatever.
I
it
mean,
is.
obviously, I think they should get more, and we'll see how it plays out. But again, back to my point, it's all about how many fannies are in the seats and TV rights and things like that. So
Well, World Cup, I mean, there's not an empty seat in the place, no matter
not
what.
for the
I mean,
World Cup,
World Cup,
but if the Seattle Sounders are playing the New York Red Bulls, for example,
exactly.
they play in venues that are typically 5 to 10,000, maybe a 20,000 arena.
And
or
I'm
an
not sure
outdoor stadium.
I'm not sure the Red Bulls even sell out there
That's
at
my
9,000
point.
stadiums.
That's exactly my point. So, yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But
And I think
They
a lot
should
of the
get paid more, no
popularity
doubt.
with women's soccer is, and this is kind of maybe off the beaten path, and I don't want to go down there. The whole Me Too movement and the LGBTQ thing. Let's not deny the elephant in the room, kind of thing. But I think that's generated a lot more popularity with the young crowd and the young girls and so forth. And hey, we started off the show, and by the way, our opening remarks were brought to us by Coriano Trucking Incorporated. I meant to bring that up in the beginning. Thank you, Guy.
thanks, Guy.
But yeah, they impressed. They went as the favorites, and they walked out there with the trophy.
Can't
Straight.
ask for anything more than that.
Right. So
Congratulations.
congratulations, ladies. So listen, let's move on. Our next segment, I'd like to bring up Wimbledon, obviously, because we're big tennis fans and a lot going on. This is sponsored by Lynch Toyota from Manchester, Connecticut. Mike, thanks for being a loyal sponsor of our show.
Thank you, Mike.
So some great stuff at Wimbledon today, right? So the Cinderella story came to an end today, right? Coco Gauff.
Yeah, you brought her up on the show last week, and rightfully so. And she had a great couple weeks. Won, beat Venus Williams in round one,
Yep.
advances to the second round, wins again, and now in the third round, obviously the competition gets much harder.
Yep.
But Coco Gauff presented herself real well on the national stage here.
15 years old. this kid.
15, her parents were in the crowd.
Yep.
She's a real sweet girl, has a good head on her shoulders, and the sky's the limit for her going forward. I think you're going to hear
Yep.
an awful lot, and I think she's obviously opened everybody's eyes, and now she's on the tennis scene as a up and comer. So
And
congratulations.
she
to
ran
her.
into a buzzsaw. This Simona Halep, she's one of the top 3 girls on the, the
Right.
women's.
Probably at least
women's
10
side.
years older and faster, stronger, that type of thing. But like you said, Cinderella came crashing to a halt today, but she has nothing to hang her head on, nothing whatsoever.
Ah, she was
It was
class
great.
and grace. I mean, she played the whole Wimbledon thing exactly how you're supposed to do it. Grace and class, and we love that on our show.
We do. So also today, this morning, an American who was unseeded knocked off the number one women's player, or the number one seed, Amanda Barty, I think her name is. And she's from Australia.
Yep.
So this Allison Risk,
Yep.
who's getting married in about 2 weeks or something.
Right.
So she had the biggest win of her career. I never heard of her prior to this morning.
And what does she get as a consolation prize? She gets to play Serena Williams in the quarters.
Exactly. So that's Wimbledon. You're playing the best of the best, and let's not be surprised if Serena, now that the number one seed is out, maybe wins her. It's got to be her 8th, I think.
Yeah, maybe,
Right.
maybe.
So she's obviously formidable, but
Yep.
it's a big upset today on the women's side.
Yeah, that was great. But I did watch a great match today, and obviously we've talked about this: the Nadal, the Djokovic, the Federer, right? The
Yeah.
big 3, they're still alive.
Right.
I watched Federer match today. He won in straight sets. Beat this guy Bertolini or whatever his name was. The guy serves 145 miles an hour.
Good luck returning that.
He's a giant. Federer returned it all day long and smoked him. This may be the swan song. This may be his message to everybody else saying, I know you thought I was done last year, and I'm going to actually say I wasn't writing him off, but I just didn't think he could match up with these guys, Djokovic and Nadal and some of these young bucks anymore. He blew me away today. A shellacking
Good.
over this guy.
Well, I'm going to go with Djokovic to win this. I just think, he's won it before. Obviously, Rogers won multiple times. I'm sure Nadal has one.
He's got
Two,
two.
right, at least.
He's got two.
But we talked about Nadal. He's really a clay guy, and a hard surface guy is his forte. But like you said, the big 3, and if Rogers playing well, who's to say he can't win? But we try to, make some predictions on this show. So I'm going to go with the big fella, Djokovic, to ward off the Nadal or Federer.
Okay, and I'm actually going to take the other side of the
You're
thing.
going Raj?
I am going Raj.
Okay.
I think.
Hey, from What's Happening.
No, not that Raj. Not rerun Raj.
Yes.
But I'm actually putting my hat in his ring. He was so impressive today in returning serves. Right? Nobody serves it. Djokovic and Nadal don't even serve at 145.
And here's the other thing about Wimbledon on the men's side. So I saw a stat, and I don't know if you had mentioned this in a couple shows or a month ago, what have you, but you don't hear an American on the men's side as being a favorite to perhaps win this tournament. So I heard a stat. The last American man to win a major American, was from
Ooh.
2003.
Andy Roddick?
Andy Roddick.
Hmm.
So 16 years have passed since
Not one major?
not one major.
Hmm.
right? So since basically Agassi retired and, Jimmy Connors and McEnroe and all the big boys, and they were all American back in the day. I mean, tennis is an international sport, obviously.
Oh,
But I
scale.
found that to be quite startling.
Wow.
I said, really? Has it been that long?
I mean, there's
It's
still
been that long.
there's still an American. This guy Sam Querrey. Like a lot of people keep
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about
I'm
him.
glad you brought him up. I saw an interview with him. Couldn't have been more impressed with him. He may be the best American at this point. It seems like he's hitting his stride,
But he
you know,
may have to wait till the big three pack it in
well,
before
he's
he
young
makes
enough
his
that
mark.
he's young enough that if he has to wait his turn, then he
I
has
don't
to
know.
wait
Is
his
he
turn.
is he that young?
I
He
think
seems
he's-
to have been around. I'm going to say in tennis, what's 27
He's
now? or
mid
something?
twenties, right? So
Yeah.
he's got at least 10 years if he stays healthy and things go right for him. But that's a name on the American side that
Yep.
our audience may want to
Yep.
put into their memories, because you'll hear more from him going forward.
And an interesting fact, which I didn't know, Roger Federer is only like two Grand Slam matches wins on grass behind one
On grass,
on
Grand
grass.
Slam? Who?
Blew me away.
Oh, Bjorn Borg?
No, American.
Who, McEnroe or Connors?
James Connors.
James Connors, okay.
I was like, really? All time?
Okay.
You know?
That's a good stat, too.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
Jimmy played an awful lot of tennis in his career, and
He
I
sure
guess
did.
when you think of Federer, when Connors got to the end, he was 38, 39, really, but that U.S. Open that he advanced really far.
Might have
and
actually been 40 at that Open.
I think
actually.
he might have been, but my
Yeah.
point is, Federer is
Yep.
right around there, right? He's about 38 now,
38.
37.
38.
And we'll see. So if he can pull off Wimbledon, then he's one away, right?
So I'm back in his camp.
Okay.
Like I said.
To be continued.
All
We'll
right.
see how Wimbledon goes, and obviously we'll be watching that over breakfast.
Absolutely.
Finals.
So listen, our next segment is sponsored by D. Filippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York. Obviously, we've spoken about how highly we recommend that bakery.
We most certainly do.
So
Thanks, Carmela, for sponsoring the show.
thank you. And I wanted to bring up this golf tournament yesterday because there's been a couple of real good feel-good stories in golf over the past few weeks. And I know this wasn't a loaded field yesterday, but there was one thing that was interesting, and we'll get to the guy that won it. But the past couple of majors, we haven't brought up this guy's name, Bryson DeChambeau. And last year he was the darling of the PGA Tour,
It
and
was.
neither one of us even brought his name up, and he didn't show in any of the first three majors. But he showed yesterday. But he had this thing snatched out of his hands. He eagles 18,
Yep.
goes up by a stroke. This kid, Matthew Wolf, 20 years old, eagles the 18th and wins the tournament.
And it wasn't a 5-footer we're talking
It
about.
was off the green kind of
Right?
thing.
It had to be at least a 25-foot putt
Right.
and right in the hole. Eagle, win.
20 years
Awesome.
old.
Great finish for golf there.
Oh, it was awesome.
So that's a feel-good story. So this kid, Matthew Wolf, who I've got to admit, never heard of him before.
Not before
It's like
yesterday.
Nate Lashley that we mentioned the week before. Never
Right.
heard of him. So it's nice that there are some young guns on the PGA Tour that have gotten their first victories, with obviously all the talent that they go up against week after week.
You know what? Out of the guys that finished in the top 10, I bet there was 6 guys that I never heard of. Never even heard of these guys.
Right.
So I know it wasn't a loaded field, but with DeChambeau in there, that makes the competition tough.
Yeah, he did. He had it snatched right out of his hands. So
Congratulations
He was watching
to
on the
Matthew
monitor
Wolff.
too, right? He was waiting, thinking that maybe a playoff or something.
And somebody goes, he made it?
Oh yes, he did.
Arr.
Newman. So, great finish to the PGA.
It
over the
sure
weekend.
was. It really was. So listen, let's move on to the NBA and let's talk about what was going on. We talked about all the free agent signings just last show, but the one remaining marquee name was Kawhi Leonard, and are you surprised? I'm not.
Well,
We knew he was going to L.A.
Right, so we're not surprised. We kind of called L.A., but we didn't know which L.A. And I think at the end of the last show, we were leaning towards the Lakers.
I was.
And
I was.
I also forgot when we were not doing what the Clippers bring to the table. You know who's running the organization?
Steve Ballmer?
He's the owner, but a great, great basketball mind who's probably 82 by now, Jerry West. Jerry West left the Warriors a couple years ago, and I think that played a big factor in Kawhi.
Left the Warriors or the Lakers?
He left the Lakers to the Warriors. He actually was the one who kind of built the Warriors, and then left to the Clippers. I think he did some work with Memphis for a little bit. But my point being is, at the end of the day, Kawhi had to decide. Do you want to be part of this, be the third of the big three with the Lakers, or be really your own man? And obviously he chose to be his own man. And also, he's friends with Paul George, so this negotiation had a lot to do with Paul George getting out of OKC. Kawhi wanted him, and the Clippers gave up a ton of picks, maybe more than the Boston Nets trade we talked about last
But the George deal was, what, you think that was contingent? That was Kawhi's,
There's no doubt about it.
If I sign here, you make this deal?
Yeah, he needs a superstar with him. Paul George is a superstar. Paul George is a little injury prone for my liking. He's had a couple major injuries.
Yes, he has.
But he's a good player. And so I think the Clippers, obviously getting Kawhi and now George, are in a good place. Yes, they had to sacrifice a big boatload of picks to.
And who else they got? This guy Patrick Beverly or something?
He resigned. He was there last year.
One of the top defensive players in the league.
He was a former Rocket before he came to the Clippers. And now the other news we're hearing as of this morning is now that
George got sent back.
And Russell Westbrook may be available now. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if the Knicks can't resist a Russell Westbrook and mortgage their future and succumb to a superstar with an ego and a half, and we'll see how that
And I think
that
the franchise is so bruised from this free agency that they may actually take a swing at this.
We'll see what happens, but I would imagine there's a ton of moving pieces with this. I don't know if it's a 3-team deal has to be done. I don't know how obviously the Knicks still have money. They had 2 Supermax contracts available.
Yeah.
I'm sure the money would work, but Russell Westbrook is a dynamite player. But he's kind of like James Harden.
Let me give you.
Are you going to win with a selfish type of ball player?
Let me give you my 2 cents on Westbrook. I kind of. He is. There's no question. He's talented and he seems to come to play, but he's starting to seem to lose interest. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's the kind of guy you want. He was there when Durant was there. They didn't win anything.
And Harden. Harden was in OKC. They've had good players there. Serge Ibaka. The list is endless. They got to the finals.
Yep.
Didn't win. So we'll see how that plays out. But, Kawhi going to the Clippers is really a good move for him. He wanted to come home. He gave Toronto the final presentation, and I'm sure it was a very.
But it couldn't have come down to money because they would have both offered the same money.
I think
right?
he came back.
Isn't a max contract a max contract?
He's an LA kid. He came and conquered Toronto. Brings home a championship team to Canada.
And I think we talked about this going Doc Rivers might be one of the best coaches, like Popovich, obviously, but Doc Rivers, awesome. And maybe Kawhi said, you're right, I don't want to play third wheel to Davis and the LeBron show. And I think I got just as good a chance with Doc Rivers and the talent on the Clippers. I don't think money came down to it. I was a little surprised that
he was going to get a Supermax deal.
Either way.
Yep. I would think Toronto could give him actually more money just because of these bird rights and things of that nature. But he's still, I think he signed for $141 million something along those lines. Like we talked about, the money's insane in the NBA, so.
Over the top, actually.
Right,
It's over
so
the top.
Kawhi is done. I think the free agency, for the most part, of all the prominent names has come to a conclusion. There'll be more activity, obviously, in a couple months as teams formulate rosters.
Right, all the big names are done, but some of these B players, they're getting tons of dough too, so they're all falling into place now too.
Right. Also, Zion made his debut in the Summer League. I saw a couple highlights of that. He smashed one down. I think they're pulling him. He bumped knees with somebody. I don't think there's a need for him to play. I think they need to get him in the gym and get him bigger, faster, stronger as the season approaches. No, I don't see any reason to play him and risk injury. But he had a couple moves where he just stripped the ball out of Kevin Knox on the Knicks with such brute force that he actually knocked Knox down when he grabbed the basketball. So there were some flashes there that he looks good in an NBA uniform.
And I got to tell you, I don't watch this D League or G League, whatever league you call it, but R.J. Barrett played too. It looks like he kind of got schooled a little bit.
Yeah, I think RJ had a tough debut, if you will. I know he only went 3 for 15 from the field in one game.
Earthquake notwithstanding.
Earthquake notwithstanding. So, but I think the summer league is good for an RJ Barrett. He has to play and keep playing and keep playing. So.
What is he, 19 years old or something?
He's
Well,
19.
Zion can't be more than 19
Nah,
either.
I think they're
right?
both 19.
Right.
They're babies. But that's about it with the NBA news right now.
Yep. So let's move on. Let's talk about Major League Baseball because it's the All-Star break,
Sure.
right? All-Star weekend. All-Star week, actually.
Home run derby tonight.
Okay. Let's talk about that. So I wrote in my notes, I say Josh Bell from the Pittsburgh Pirates wins the home run
You're
derby.
going Josh Bell.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'll roll the dice with the little Vlad Guerrero Jr.
You know, for all the hype he gets, and we've watched him a dozen times playing the Yankees, I'm not overly impressed with him right now, other than his name, you know.
He came in as the #1 rated prospect in all of Major League Baseball.
I know, but you know, he's two cannolis away from looking like Cecil Fielder.
That's
I mean,
true, too.
So, I mean,
We shall say.
but I like this kid Josh Bell from Pittsburgh. I like him a
He's
lot.
been under the radar. I don't think a lot of people know about him. He's only really come on the scene in maybe last year or two.
Well, Pittsburgh hasn't been on television in 9 years, right? I mean, but
Since Danny Murtaugh was the manager in the early 70s
oh my goodness,
with Stargell and
we are family.
We Are Family.
Right. But I did want to shout out because you've been touting this guy all year, and I said I thought the first few weeks he may have been a flash in the pan. This Pete Alonso for the Mets, love him,
Okay.
love him.
And the Met fans love him too.
How could they not?
What a first half the kids had. So he joins exclusive company.
In the
There's
Mets,
well,
anyway.
well, there's 3 guys right now that have already hit 30.
Yelich.
Bellinger, and Alonso.
Right.
That's good stuff. And like I think you mentioned that Alonso or Dave Kingman on the Mets was
The only other Mets player to have 30 home runs at the All-Star break.
well, Alonso is on pace for 50, low 50s. And like we talked about, he may break Judge's record of 52. So he's in the home run derby this evening. So when I think of the home run derby, remember when Aaron Judge came flying on the scene and he had a home run derby.
He won it, right? I think he won
Well,
it.
the bottom line is right after the All-Star break,
Yeah.
he went like 1 for 43 or something. And a lot of people attributed it to the home run derby. I don't necessarily do.
You know what?
But that hitting those many balls, it can be trying and taxing.
Which
those
is
guys.
why I was perplexed that Yelich is actually participating in this, especially having some back issues and missing a couple of games.
I think he's
and
missing
stuff.
the All-Star game itself, Yelich. So we'll see. If he's still going to show up to that, there's a chance he may pull out.
Yep.
But listen, it's been an entertaining event for Major League Baseball now. When we grew up, there was no home run derby other than a black and white film from the
Duke
50s.
Snyder versus
Mickey Mantle and
Mickey Mantle,
Frank Robinson versus.
after getting off their bar stools.
Totally, absolutely. So the All-Star game is tomorrow night.
Yep.
There's another interesting fact. It's loaded with a lot of young guys, meaning I believe both rosters combined, the median average age is like 26. And that's
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
That's a lot. That's a lot of youth there.
Well, certainly the starting outfielder is the youngest starting outfielder since Frank Robinson and somebody else, and that how far back that goes. Frank Robinson was probably a rookie in '59,
Something along those
Something
lines.
like that.
Late 50s, definitely.
yeah. But I think if we now we're at the break. I think Cody Bellinger absolutely gets the MVP
Who else?
in the National League. Who do you think? Who's the MVP in the American League right now?
Mike Trout.
Of course.
He's knocking he's going nuts again.
That was a rhetorical question.
He has 28 home runs, I think.
Yeah.
And he's hitting the cover off the ball. He's just a great guy. We also, while we're talking baseball, we went off the air last week, and the sad news came in about Tyler Skaggs, a pitcher
Yep.
on the California Los Angeles Angels.
Yep.
And it was, I think it's from natural causes. It doesn't seem to be any foul play or what have you. But it was quite emotional for the Angels, and Mike Trout being the captain of the team. The press conference was,
That was
quite
pretty
emotional,
powerful.
And unfortunately, Tyler passed away at age 27.
Yeah.
And he was on the Angels for like 4 or 5 years, I think.
And he was really loved. I saw not who's the ESPN guy, the older guy, the baseball guy.
Carl Ravitch, or
No. Driving me crazy.
Okay.
I'll get it. But he says I knew Tyler Skaggs, and he was just a wonderful kid. And now I'm going, how many times? This is like the third or fourth time this has happened to the Angels organization. It's kind of rare to happen at all. But this is
yeah. I know they lost a pitcher 10 years ago, Nick Aidenhart.
right.
I want to say Lyman Bostock.
No, he was
Back
with
in the
Twins.
day?
He was with the
But
Twins.
didn't he come on the Angels? And
Yeah, I think he signed as a free agent with.
I'm just going top of my head. I was thinking like Lyman Bostock died in a car accident or something when he was on the Angels. So to your point of, tragedy befalling the Angels in the past.
Yeah,
So,
they lost a shortstop a few years back too, in a car accident.
yeah. So our hearts and prayers go out to Tyler Skaggs' family.
Yep.
Also, if we're doing notable passings this week, I'd like to bring up the hefty lefty Jared Lorenzen, former University of Kentucky quarterback,
Yep.
member of one of the New York Giants Super Bowl winning teams,
Yep.
has a ring.
Yep.
And this kid, unfortunately, we all knew he was a big kid and had a weight problem when he played, but he literally ballooned up to about 500 pounds and fought obesity since his retirement.
Yeah.
Again, I saw a piece on him about within the year,
Yeah.
and he was battling it, and he was
a 30 for
candid.
30 or something.
He was candid, and it's an embarrassing thing for him, but he wanted to help others. And I also talked to a couple people that I know in Kentucky, and they mentioned what a great guy Jared Lorenzen was. He was a pillar of the community, never turned down an autograph, was always accessible to his fans, as a legend at Kentucky.
Good father.
Good
whole
father,
family
the
guy.
whole thing.
Yep.
I know he had 10,000 plus yards at Kentucky. He's the number one all-time quarterback there, and I would imagine that record will stand for a while.
Yep.
So we just wanted to mention notable passing, Jared Lorenzen passing.
It's good that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when I saw that 30 for 30, I was more impressed with him. I thought he was just a degenerate guy that just overate, but it was something he couldn't control. So.
No. So he was battling it, and unfortunately his body gave out and
Yep.
died too young.
Yep.
So also, the other thing I wanted to bring up too was one of our listeners wanted us to cover, and this could be another heart attack candidate. They wanted us to cover the 4th of July hot dog eating contest at Nathan's. Is it a sport or not a sport?
But I want to jokingly say this segment sponsored by Nathan.
So Mr. Joey Chestnut won his 12th title. Didn't reach quite the quantity he did last year. He fell short of a few dogs.
Like 2 or 3 dogs. Right?
Joey consumed 71 hot dogs to pull off the title. So,
AKA Jaws.
AKA Jaws.
Right.
So, sport or not a sport, that's for another time. But we wanted to acknowledge Mr. Chestnut's victory on Sports with Mono and Mono.
And the women's, I think it was Miko something, the women's 7 in a row.
Congratulations, Miko. So,
You know what I did find out about it? I actually did watch it. I mean, it's only 10 minutes, so it's worth watching.
of course.
There's now actually a major league eating.
Hence the conversation, is this a sport or not a sport?
Well, apparently they say some of these guys make $500,000 a year. So, I mean, what is now Scott Boros going to represent Joey Chestnut?
He very well may, if the money's right.
God.
Well, Drew Rosenhaus.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, right. These guys to eat 71 hot dogs in 10 minutes is beyond ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous.
So we just wanted to mention that being in honor of the 4th of July.
Yep.
And it seems to become a staple now in the morning, waiting for the contestants to take their places at the eating table.
Yep.
Good weather for it, too, this year.
You bet. And listen, a couple other things that are coming up. Obviously, the British Open golf is coming up. I think it's not this Thursday, a week from Thursday.
Yeah.
And of course, for all our horse racing fans, Saratoga, opening day, this Thursday.
Giddy up.
Yep. So if you haven't been, go.
Yeah, Saratoga is really the cat's meow when it comes to watching
And you get
horse racing.
all of the premier horses, all the trainers, all the jockeys. This is 6 weeks. Actually, it's 7 weeks this year. They actually opened it up in an extra week at Saratoga.
It's a good venue, no doubt.
It really is. It's magnificent. If you haven't been,
That's what,
go.
a 3-hour drive from New York, if that,
Barely.
right?
Barely.
So
Yep.
take your golf clubs up there, golf, do whatever you want.
Yep.
And a day at the races there is highly recommended.
And you don't have to be a horse guy. Just the pomp and circumstances of it all just makes it a beautiful venue, and it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. But opening day is this Thursday.
Great.
So, all right. Any shout outs? You know what? I do have a shout out from Jim Smith. He's been one of our loyal listeners.
Yes.
We get 2 or 3 emails from Jim every week.
Jim, thank you very much for the email. We
Yeah.
had a little exchange on the Tommy Lasorda rant that we threw up there for our listeners.
And Jim's emails usually have something to do with the Dodgers or the Cowboys.
Okay, those
You know,
are his teams.
Those are his teams. But thanks for your support, Jim. And I think we brought up this Tommy Lasorda thing. Did we bring this up last week or
Yeah.
something?
Well, I have a buddy, Michael Oroz, who actually is I give him credit. He's the one who sent it to me. He's got a buddy who's a big baseball fan, and I'm still laughing at that. So it's been a couple weeks, but you guys got to get that Tommy Lasorda rant.
God, even more vile from a language perspective was the Charlie Lau one, right? Wasn't it Charlie Lau? Who was the pitching coach, the old guy?
Oh, it was Lee Ely.
Lee Ely. I'm sorry, I said Charlie
was the
Lau.
manager of the Cubs, and I want to say that rant was from like 1980.
Oh,
And the Cubs were 5-14 at the time, and the fans were really getting on the Cubs, and
he went crazy.
oh my God, that is highly recommended as well. That is X-rated language to it's probably the most swearing in a press conference
Ever.
ever.
Made Scarface look like a Disney movie.
Right, so you guys got to look up Lee Elia, E-L-I-A,
Manage the Cubs and the Phillies.
Manage the Cubs and the Phillies.
Yep.
But look up Lee Ely,
Oh.
Cubs rant, and you're going to laugh for a few minutes.
And there's a dozen Tommy Lasordas to pick from, but it's pretty funny.
Right.
They're great. They're on YouTube or whatever, but
They're
you're a
out
baseball fan and you know these guys and you never saw this side of them, listen to it. It's brilliant.
there. No doubt.
Brilliant.
No doubt.
So, listen, thanks for joining us this week, Steve. Thanks for your insight, as always, of course.
If you'd like to obviously make a comment or communicate with the show, please send an email to
Yep.
sportswithmono@gmail.com.
Yep.
And we'll answer that, and we look forward to the feedback. We thank you for listening, as always, to our loyal listeners. Please tell your friends,
Yep.
and we will catch up to you on the next show.
Absolutely. And we look forward to following up next week with all the other stuff we didn't cover today and updates on what we did cover and so forth. And before we sign off, congratulations to the women's soccer team, U.S.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Right.
See you guys next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.